first one we have is an if statement. And if you haven't already done so, you should have this downloaded from Blackboard. If you haven't done that already, you should be doing that. It's under the in-class assignment folder, okay, on Blackboard. The first thing that we're going to do is an if statement, and the if is using an if statement beginning in cell C3, create a formula that will take 20% of the number if it is in the amount in B3 if it's over 40. So there's our logic test. But before we have to do anything, we have an equal sign. And I put some of the steps down here, down below. Take them with a grain of salt because I've moved things over, and so it might say B3, but it really means C3, or it may mean A5 or whatever. You may have to use some common sense or some of your own judgment on that. But equals if, and then you're going to click on the FX button, and that will give you your submenu. So you may, and most people after they take intermediate spreadsheets, and if you get into advanced spreadsheets, it gets to the point with an if statement, you've done so many of them and are so comfortable with them, you don't even need this anymore. But I would encourage you to use it. Yes, Erica, really, really seriously, you'll get to that point. I'm not saying don't use it now, use it now. But it's possible to get to the point where you're comfortable when you don't need it, but use it now. So the logic test is if B3 is greater than 40. Now, could we have done a B3 is less than 40? Yes, sure. The only difference is that our value for true and our value for false would have been reversed. It's the only difference. So if the number is over 40, what do we want Excel to do? The value for true is that create a formula that will decide whether B3 is over 40, and if it is, take 20% of that number. I'm not going to type in 20%. I'm going to use the perfectly good 20% sitting here in E3. Why am I going to click on that rather than just type in 20%?
If you change the percentage.
If I change the percentage and I want to take 25% of a number, all I have to do is put 25 in here, and all my formulas would change, rather than having to go in here, change the formula, and then drag it down. So always reference a cell if you can. So we're going to go here, and how do we take 20% of a number? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Well, yes, multiply. Multiply with B3. Value of false is the words too low. And remember, we use our double quotation marks because they are text. And then click OK. Now, if I drag this down, I'm going to get errors, or I'm going to get things that aren't working. I know 98 is over 40. Why is it bringing me 0? Why is it not taking 20% of that number? I didn't make an absolute cell reference when I went E3. Notice if you've done it this way, then that one's E4, E5, E6, E7, E8, which of course there's nothing there. And that's why it's multiplying those cells, those empty cells, and getting a 0. So when you're doing this, don't panic. If you get on the test and you know your formula's right, and you drag it down, you autofill it, or if you're in a table and it autofills and you get NAs or you get things that aren't working, don't panic. Look back, and the first thing you should check is to say, is there anything here that needs to be absolute? Does the B3 need to be absolute? No, because we want it to go B3, B4, B5, B6. Does the E3 need to be absolute? Yes. And so click anywhere around the E3, hit F4, or if that doesn't work, put your dollar signs around it. And then click OK, and now autofill, and done. Questions on that one? All right, let's go down, and I'm just going to do the green one and leave the bottom one here. If you wanted to do it on your own, that's fine. using an if statement beginning in cell C25, create a formula that will multiply the amount in A25 with the amount if it's over 40. So the same thing, equals if, open bracket, if this is over 40, what do we want it to do? Yep, take this, multiply, bless you, multiply B25 and B26 and so on with the amount in A25. And in this case, I actually mentioned absolute cell reference. So we definitely want to have A25 as our absolute cell reference. If it's not over 40, return the amount in B25. So just show the amount. So I have 4,500, 36, and so on. Questions on that one? All right. I'm going